Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone! Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop. Oh.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Friday! Welcome aboard, Indiana Sports Beat Radio fans, and I hope you had a great week and ready to get to the weekend. We're here to help you get that going. Appreciate you being with us and joining us no matter where or how you're doing so, whether it's on one of our great radio affiliates like 97.7 ESPN The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, or at 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM. The voice of the region, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked right here throughout your day, wherever you're going. Best place you need to be. And if you're following along on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Hit the like button. Like it up. Like it up, people. Heading into the final weekend of the college basketball regular season. Man, it is upon us. Tom down in Highlander country. All right. Appreciate you, brother. How would you... Miles Coven for Purdue checked himself into a game the other night. I was reading about this. It was hilarious. Matt Painter was talking about it afterwards. He's like, hey, that's a great deal if you can get it done. He was in there for like a minute. It was just funny. Painter said he looked down at the assistant coaches and asked him if somebody took the player out that he subbed in, and they're like, no. That lasted about a minute. Pretty funny. Let's see. Conference tournaments coming up, starting. Well, some of them have already started. The men's side, some of the smaller conferences. The women's tournament is actually going on right now, as a matter of fact, as well. So you've got that happening. Indiana won yesterday. The ladies, the women, they beat Oregon up in Indianapolis. So right now, the first round games that happened on Wednesday, Washington was a winner, Nebraska was a winner, Iowa was a winner, and then yesterday, Indiana over Oregon, 78-62. Indiana's the number 9 seed in this tournament. So somewhat of an upset, but they handled Oregon pretty well. Indiana's probably a dangerous 9 seed in that. That game was followed by number 5 Michigan versus number 12 Washington. No, that's today. No, that was yesterday. They don't have the scores updated. You dirty dogs. How do they not have those scores? It doesn't make sense. It is Friday all day long. Well, the Hoosiers will be taking on USC. Well, right now, where a lot of you are at noon. That game is followed by Maryland versus yesterday's winner of Game 5, which would be Michigan, I believe. So next week, the men's Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. So lots of basketball going on because the boys high school tournament is underway as well. Let's see. The only hot topic needs to be covered today is the Chris Beard rumor. Oh, man. Well, first of all, this quote unquote rumor is, I hate dealing with rumors. So, but yeah, the rumor, I don't even like dealing with it. I really don't. Because I think that sometimes there are people that like to, well, that will put stuff out there, whether it's true or not, because it will get views, it will get reads, it will get clicks, whatever. First of all, those two sources that you guys are citing are one and the same. So they work together. Who's benefiting from that right now? Who's benefiting from that attention? Think about that. Just think about that. Because when it's all said and done, if it turns out not to be true, oh, well, it was a rumor. So, you know what? I'm not going to address a rumor. Andy says, oh, come on, just play along. Well, you know what? I am perfectly content waiting to find out. Rumors do no one any good at all. And I know a lot of fans would love to see that come to fruition, but I'm just not buying it. No, Coolio, I am not buying into it. Ryan says, no, excited about nothing. I don't think that is changed, but we'll see. I'm not going to jump in on rumors until there's something. I need a little more fire than that, than rumors and everybody likes to source a booster. So first of all, if Scott Dolson were to do that, I'm not sure how much boosters are going to be in the know on that. Now, if they are, that's fine, but I'm pretty certain that Scott would say, you have to keep this completely quiet. I don't know if he would even trust anybody right now to tell him that information. Looking forward to talking to Todd Leary about it because he'll give a much better indication on what he thinks Scott would do, the information that he would even let out at this point. But that's a good place to start today. So I guess we might as well hit our first break so we can bring on the shot father, Todd Leary from myjumpshot.com, and eagerly start talking about this. You guys are ready to go. All right, we're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Doing some hard truth rumor flying next. All right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza,
burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday, and that means a visit from your favorite, MyJumpShot.com's Todd Leary. How are you, sir?
I am good. Got the mobile unit this morning.
Love it. Love it. It's always good to be mobile on a Friday.
Yep.
It's always good to be mobile
That's
on
right.
a Friday.
Yeah,
I saw that forecast, man. It's calling your name next week.
yes, it is.
Calling my name, too. Let me tell you, I can promise you.
Nothing is more fun than when the Big Ten tournament is in Indianapolis and the weather is really good. I mean, this is set up for one of the all-time great tournaments of the Big Ten that the Big Ten's put on. It's really set up for a good weekend in Indy.
Well, and you say that, and there couldn't be more truth to that, because while Michigan State is probably a favorite, they're not a dominant favorite. There's 5 teams that can beat them, probably. Or hell, 6. I mean, hell, Indiana beat them. And I'm not saying that would happen again, but it's a wide open Big Ten tournament. You don't have Purdue of the last couple of years with Zach Edey or Illinois.
Right. There's no
Maryland.
standout favorite of it, right?
Michigan State did wrap up the Big Ten championship last night, though, with a win at Iowa. They are now 2 games up on Michigan, whom they finished the regular season with this weekend, but Michigan cannot catch up. Dusty shouldn't have signed that extension because he lost 3 out of his 4 games.
Yeah, they've struggled since that point. And yeah, you're right. The interesting thing about the Big Ten tournament right now is, usually analysts or the so-called experts give Tom Izzo's teams, I'd say, more credit than they deserve. Like a lot of times I think just because Tom Izzo's the coach, they tend to favor that team a little bit more than some others. And that's rightfully so. He's earned that, over the years in his Hall of Fame career. And this year, I think it's the opposite. I fall into that category. I don't, just because they struggle to score the basketball, which they've done better at in the last few games. I just don't give them the credit. And if you polled, those so-called experts and said, who would you pick to win the Big Ten? I don't think very many of them are going to pick Michigan State. Like people are just, a lot of us are just not giving them the credit. And I still am not. Like, they proved it last night, a big win. They could have easily gotten beat by Iowa. That was a kind of a trap game. They trailed
for a good part of that game.
Yeah. Oh, they were down by 10, midway through the second half. And they just did what Michigan State does. And they just grinded you to the point where you had a little bit of a lull at the wrong time, and they took advantage of it. And that's, this Michigan State team, even though they're going to win the Big Ten, outright, this is not a team that's, or I doubt very many people or analysts are picking to win the Big Ten. And just because they don't have the superstar that they normally have, they don't have that one alpha guy that you point at that, is one of the best players in the league. They don't have any of that this year. This is just a Tom Izzo, beaut that he's put out there. I said it the other day, and I've always given Coach Knight credit for the 1988 Big Ten championship. I think that was the best, and I wasn't there then. That was the year before I came in. That was the best coaching job. If you look at that roster and who that team beat in the Big Ten, like you go look at all of those, the rosters on all those teams in the Big Ten that Indiana beat, and to win the Big Ten that year, I've always said is the best coaching job anyone's done in the NCAA ever. And honestly, I don't think it's quite the same because I don't think the other rosters are quite as strong as what they were back in 1988. But I think this is the next closest pure, outright great coaching job someone has done with a team since 1988.
Well, you say that, but it's kind of come back around, like you're saying, because but those days we had seniors, juniors, and seniors. Teams were full of them, and then here for the last several years, it's just been a youth movement. Guys get out; they're gone to the NBA as soon as they can. But now with NIL, that has changed that back. Boy, you see a ton of seniors everywhere. Hell, you see grad students all over the place. So
6, 7, not just seniors, 6-year seniors, 7th-year seniors.
Yes.
Even. Heck, doesn't
Minnesota
have an 8-year senior?
They're staying as long as they can stay now. It's a different deal. So, but that makes for better college basketball, in my opinion, because you've got better, more mature players. So this could be, I'd say this could be a hell of a tournament, and I think that it will be the NCAA tournament, but I don't know how you go against the SEC, but I don't want to shortchange the Big Ten tournament just yet. Coming up next week, Indiana has a final game against Ohio State. I think that they have to win that game to determine their own NCAA fate. And if they win that game, I'm not sure where they'll end up being seeded. If they're an 8 seed, they get a bye, which would make their first game tougher than if they don't get a bye, because they would be the higher seed playing a lower seeded team. That would give them the win in the Big Ten tournament they might need, and then they can go on and lose that next game to a higher seeded team. So they may be better off if they were the lower seeded team in the Big Ten tournament, but I don't think it's going to work out that way. Regardless, I think they have to beat Ohio State.
I think that's what it comes down to. I think this has become, Michigan State winning last night and clinching the Big Ten, that kind of made an anticlimactic finish for that Michigan State game. But that's not the case for Indiana and a couple of other teams as well. Like the reason why this should be just one battle, heck of a battle in a basketball game, is because Ohio State, I think, sits in almost exactly the same position as Indiana. I think they both really know and understand they need to win this game. And the winner of this game is most likely in the NCAA tournament. No matter what happens in the Big Ten tournament, the winner of this game is most likely in. And, that just says all the marbles are on the table for this game, and you have got to do everything you can possibly do to win this game. It's kind of come down to a one-game play-in game, in my opinion. I could be wrong. The committee – that's where I think the committee kind of sees it too. That's just not my opinion. I'm kind of going off of what I've seen, what they're predicting, last 4 in and first 4 out and those things. But yeah, it's a must-win game if you want to feel pretty comfortable, a week from now on that Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that winning the game should put Indiana in itself. But like I said, going in and losing, if they were to do that and lose their first Big Ten tournament game, depending on who it's against, I think is a different.
It could. You're right. It could definitely factor into it. But you know what? But
I think I agree with you. If they win this game, they should be in, because as of right now, most analysts have them in at like an 11. So this should secure that spot.
Yeah, it sure looks that way, but it looks the same way for Ohio State to me. Like when you look at them, like it looks pretty much the same way. I don't think I don't think if Indiana loses this game and loses the first game of the Big Ten tournament, they would be in. I don't think Ohio State, if they lose this game and lose the first game of the Big Ten tournament, I don't think they would be in either. So I think they're both kind of in the position of a must-win.
All in, baby. Everybody's all in, pushing the chips in.
That's what I said. Everything you can possibly do. I don't care if you got to play a zone. I don't care if you got to play a box and one. It doesn't matter. You got to figure out a way to win this game. And Indiana playing at home, historically on senior days, they've had decent success. So, I mean, they've got things in their favor. You feel much better needing to win this game playing at home than you would on the road. So Indiana's got a bit of an advantage, but I think everybody in the league's proven that that's no guarantee this year.
I agree with you 1,000%. The fact that Indiana is just even in this position is shocking to me.
It is great. Yeah, it really is great.
But they put themselves in position. They played a lot better going down the stretch. Couldn't get it done, against Oregon, but they sneakily, I think they'll get another chance against the Ducks in the Big Ten tournament. We'll certainly see. But they've got to take care of business on Saturday. They've been playing a lot better. It seems. Mackenzie Mbako, though, you've talked about how he has to be engaged in the offense for Indiana to reach their ceiling. And, man, he has been about as inconsistent on his team as anybody has this year.
He's been like the Indiana weather. Like, it's hard to predict what you're going to get out of him. And, one day when you see it might be one way, you think things are going to go one way, it just turns around and you just don't know what to expect. What you said it perfectly. Like, you don't know what to expect out of him. And I firmly believe Indiana is at its best when Mackenzie Mbako is playing. It is a big part and has his better games. I honestly feel like their ceiling, in order to beat the really good teams, they have got to have Mackenzie Mbako pretty consistently playing well. And you know what? He struggled a little bit, especially with consistency. And so it's almost like a new season. I know this game Saturday is not, but once you get into the Big Ten tournament, it's almost like a new season. You get a fresh start. And hopefully that's how he looks at it and takes it. And hopefully they can go from there. And, he just uses it as a springboard to get off to a good start going through the tournament.
Well, you're the expert on the X's and O's, and it appears that Indiana has some semblance of an offense going with Luke Goody starting in the lineup now and just the one big, but yet Mackenzie Mbako just doesn't seem to find his spot, his niche in what they're trying to do. And again, if his first shot doesn't go down, and you've always said that, man, he should just take it to the bucket and get some confidence going. The other night, he did nothing in the first half, 8 points in the second half. It was weird. He came out and got engaged in that second half, but it was too little too late. But, man, I don't know. It just seems like he's not engaged in what they're doing.
Yeah, and look, this, you can get into basketball coaching 101 and different coaches will tell you how to handle these things in different ways. But every player is not coached the same way, and every player doesn't respond to coaching. And some players respond better to criticism and yelling and screaming, and some don't. Some don't respond well to that. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying, like, you have to coach different players in different ways. And I do believe, just from the outside looking in, Mackenzie Mbako is a guy that you need to – coddle's not the right word. I just don't really know how else to say it. You need to massage his mental game through so that he's confident. And no matter if he misses 12 shots in a row, Mackenzie Mbako is one of the best shooters in the country. And no matter how he starts, you've got to make him confident in whatever way possible. And, when he misses 3 in a row, I'd run the next 3 plays for him. And I would get him so that he understands he is, he's important. And yeah, like Brian's comment, if he had a motor, I don't like that comment. It almost sounds like he doesn't play hard. I'm not sure he quite understands how to play hard yet. A lot of guys think they play hard and they just, but I know what you're saying, Brian. I agree with you 100%. His physical attributes, he's a lottery pick. He is an NBA all-star. when you're 6'9" and you can shoot it the way he does, he's an all-star in the NBA, but not the way that he plays. And so
is he just a late bloomer? I hate to say late bloomer, but it's just like you just said, he has not grasped what he has to do. Working hard is when you're in high school, boy, you think you're working hard. All you get up to the counter, you're like, oh crap. Right. And then you move up to another level, oh crap again. It continues to ratchet up, and some people have the self-discipline to do that. Others need to be pushed, but they're coachable and they take that. Yeah, like I said, I don't know. It's just, you can see he just doesn't seem, I don't know what it is, because you can see the talent is there. My gosh, he's smooth. It's easy. He doesn't look like he's working as hard as he probably is, but that's part of his ability.
Yeah, you are. I mean, so many things that you said are right on. Like he's just different. And I will always go back to, some players respond to some types of coaching and other players respond better to others. And I don't feel like, and look, I'm not disparaging the coaching staff. I'm not saying they're not doing their job. I'm saying I believe Mackenzie Mbako is one of those players you have to coach a little bit different. And when you look at, I don't feel like they coach him different. I feel like, they're not going to give him special treatment, and that's the way they're going to go. And I don't think that's accurate. I do think some players need special treatment. We had players on our team, Coach Knight, knew which players not to, just ground your heel on into the ground. Like he knew
some guys can take it, some guys can't.
That's the very simple way of putting it. Some guys handle it better than others. And I don't feel like Mackenzie is a guy that responds as well to lack of confidence. And so he's a guy, you tell him as the assistant coach sitting over there, you tell Mackenzie Mbako every time down the floor, if you're open, shoot it. I don't care if you miss 12 in a row. It doesn't matter. If you're open, shoot it. And, that's the Mackenzie Mbako we need in the Big Ten tournament and throughout the NCAA tournament if they're fortunate enough to get there.
And Indiana is gone with a much smaller rotation down this line. I mean, Bryson Tucker is in the witness protection program now, has not been seen or heard from in quite some time. Do not know what the situation is there, but that one, he seems to be off the table. But it's an 8-man rotation, very, very tight, and that's it. That's what you're going to see. So Indiana has to get production from those guys, all 8 of them. If somebody has a bad night, it really affects the team when you have that small of a rotation, because you have that few of opportunities. A lot of these other teams I'm seeing, they're running 9-10 guys right now. Maybe it's because of the time of the year or trying to stay fresher. I'm not sure, but boy, Indiana's has really shrunk, which they always get a little smaller, but 8-man rotation is pretty tight.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I think that fits. This is one of the things I think that is translated from the NBA coaching to where Mike Woodson is now. And I don't disagree with it. I think it happens, with all coaches. When you get down to the end of the year, your rotation does tighten up a little bit. And sometimes it's not, sometimes it's not necessarily a situation of you're intentionally doing it. I think you just feel more comfortable with guys that are making plays. And I'll tell you, it's not an easy job. Being a guy that comes in off the bench and needing to create, you're not coming in there to stop the bleeding. You're coming in there to create stuff and make stuff happen, and good stuff, obviously. And it's not an easy job. And so when you don't come in and take advantage of that opportunity, and you can't just go in and not make mistakes, you've got to go in and produce. And when you're able to do that, you get more playing time. You stay on the floor. It's easier for a coach to leave you on there. Otherwise, you are literally just coming in to give somebody a breather. And, we need guys that come in off the bench and produce. And when Bryson Tucker does that, I think he plays more. But Kanan Carlisle is a good example of this. He's a guy
that's the very name I was going to bring up next.
I think he was buried on the bench and probably not going to see a whole lot more playing time, but he's played well when he's come in and produced. And so he's earned a little bit more playing time each game and a little bit more trust. And I think, he's played himself into that rotation because I don't think he was a part of the rotation. I think he and Bryson Tucker were probably about the same boat in that. And he's been more productive when he's come in. And so it's a tough situation because, those are talented players over there. Bryson Tucker was a 5-star player sitting over there. And I think the benefit for Indiana fans this season is Mike Woodson isn't coaching, looking at what he's going to do next year. I think he's all chips on the table, and he doesn't need to make guys happy so they come back for next year. I think the cupboard's going to be pretty bare when this season is over. and there's going to be a lot of guys, if they don't transfer, they're going to look at their options. And they're going to see what's out there, and whoever that new coach is going to he's got his hands full and he's got his work cut out.
I will say this,
building a roster.
Any of those guys looking to leave, they're probably going to take a pay cut.
Oh, you know that for sure.
So that may dissuade some of those guys because they could maybe stay here and say, "Hey, I'll take the same deal. I'm good with the same deal," because they can't get that anywhere else.
It's not a 4-year deal though. Like you don't come in and sign a deal. That's one of the things we're learning about the new NIL and NCAA situation is these guys, just because you made X number of dollars last year, especially with a new coach coming in, they're not required to honor you anything. And a lot of people don't understand this, and I've educated people on this a lot over the years. When you commit and go play at a school, it's a 1-year deal. Like the school does not have to renew your scholarship every year. They do not, back before NIL and money, and we're talking about these guys' contracts, like schools are not required to renew your scholarship every year.
Now, doesn't Indiana, though, have the Fred Glass student athlete Bill of Rights thing, which is why Tim Priller, they couldn't get rid of Tim Priller. I think he was here for 4 years.
Now, look, they try to make a commitment to the athletes, and very seldom do you see, unless there's a new coach come in, very seldom do you see a player not get his scholarship renewed. But there are so many other factors that they can put involved. Like when you're not welcome and not wanted, you need to go find somewhere else to go. And right now, the scholarships are probably the last thing these guys are worried about the school renewing. Like they're worried about their NIL contracts renewing. And you're right. The money that has been there for Indiana, but we all know this. Look, it's common information that's been out there. Leal and Galloway were given more money than they could have gotten at any other school anywhere. Like maybe that's not entirely true, but it's pretty close. Like
I'd say that is exactly true.
Yeah, they were not highly sought after from a transfer portal perspective, and in NIL money. There's a lot of teams that would love to have them, but not and be willing to pay them the amount of money Indiana pays them. And so that's actually a big chunk of change that's sitting there that for sure. There's not going to be, hey, we're going to run it back at the speeches tomorrow. Like there is no running it back. Like they've run it into the ground. Like they're gone. We all know that. And so, this is the perfect opportunity to everybody stand up, cheer really hard. These are 2 Indiana kids that played. They did everything I feel like they could for Indiana University. Yeah, they made some money off of it. That's the nature of the beast right now. They didn't create the beast. They just are advantageous in how they use the system, and that's to their benefit. Everyone would have done exactly what they did. So, it's one of those scenarios. You got to look at next year's roster. You can't guarantee one single player is going to be back on this roster for next year. There might be 3 or 4, but we know for certain there are a bunch of them that are going to be gone just based on graduation.
Yeah, I look through the roster all the time, and and I ask myself, who do I expect back off of this? And I'm like, that is a very, very small list. The only person I'm confident of that will be on the Indiana roster next year is Trent Sisley. That's probably the only one I have complete confidence of that he'll be.
You're right on the money. You use Rice and Carlisle as perfect examples. Those guys, have they loved their year at Indiana? I would doubt that they would come out of that and say, yes, it's been just an awesome, great situation. But the money, they're not going to get that kind of money. I mean, there might be maybe one or two or three other schools that would be willing to offer them something close to that, but not very many. And so, that's where you look at guys like that and you're like, I mean, will they stick around with a new coach?
Well,
with
and
all
that's
of that?
a good reason. That gives Indiana an advantage of sorts,
Sure.
although it would cost them more money. It kind of, I don't want to say forces, but it really suggests you should stay here because you're going to lose some serious change by doing so. And the House settlement, which is expected to be approved next month, will kick in, which means Indiana will have that set dollars to put towards athletics, 75% of which will go towards football, 20% will probably go towards basketball, and then like 5% towards everything else. So they're going to have more money because everything they've done so far has been NIL. This is going to be revenue sharing. So it will give them the chance to continue to make probably whatever they're making now here. But I don't think that they would get that if they left. Like, I agree with you. Todd Leary, the shot father, with us from myjumpshot.com. Hey, if you have kids, no kids, are a kid, or play in a league, whatever, you want to improve your basketball fundamentals, great gift, birthday, whatever, coming up, graduation gift, think of all kinds of reasons to give it. But you don't need a reason. It's the joy of playing basketball. Reach out to myjumpshot.com. Back with more with Todd Leary on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, FreeThink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. FreeThink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what FreeThink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday, and not a better day to have Shot Father Todd Leary from myjumpshot.com with us. To be back here in just a second, but make sure you get out, enjoy high school basketball going on, people. Get out, enjoy a sectional game tonight. I know someone mentioned Jeffersonville playing with Sharon Wilkerson down there, trying to get back to the state finals. I don't know. Are the Fighting Todd Leary still at it?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I haven't seen I haven't seen Lawrence Lord up. I'm not sure if what they've got going this year, how good they are, but
Yeah, they're decent. I
Fishers,
mean, they're ranked. They're up
Fishers
there
is
in
the
top.
team.
Fishers has got a little
God.
dynasty. They got a small dynasty going on right now.
I'm telling you, and I didn't know Jason Gardner Jr. was on there. And the funny thing is, Jalen Harrelson used to be on that team.
Used to, yeah.
Can you imagine?
Before they won the state championship was on that team. So yeah, that's how good they could have been. But you know what? Like, yeah, you mentioned Gardner. Like, you want to see somebody on skates going up and down the court. That dude is fast as lightning. Like, he with the basketball, that guy is. I mean, he's special. He's good. And I think he's the only sophomore or junior, maybe. Like, he's got a couple more years to go. So it'll be tough to pry him out of the hands of Arizona.
I was getting ready to say, and Indiana has no shot at him.
Nope. Well, you don't know that with the coaching change, everything's.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Hey, we've seen
his dad might be an assistant at Indiana before it's all over.
I was just getting ready to say we have seen that happen before.
Yep.
Derek Smith, all that's it happens many, many times. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Speaking of the next coach, it's we're getting closer, but I still think we're.
Where's the rumor mill this week? Where are we at this week?
It's on fire. It is on fire. Apparently, a rumor got started that Indiana has basically reconsidered not looking at Chris Beard, and we're looking at him and going to consider him, and this, that, and the other thing. There's been no confirmation of that at all, and I'm not buying into it.
So hold on, what's the rumor? The rumor is they are looking at him or not looking at him? What's the rumor?
That there has been some kind of reconsideration. Now, I'm not saying that could not be true, because I don't know what the back-channeling conversations have been like with the people that they are actively looking at, which we know that there's probably a list 5 or 6 deep at least, and you start gauging interest. Now, most guys are probably not going to tell you no for 2 reasons. A, they're probably interested. But B, even if they're not going to say no, because they want their current school or employer to think that you're possibly going, so you can get that Dusty May extension and raise, which I don't blame them. So I'm not buying into that rumor personally. I don't think that much has changed, although I think more is being made of that situation that he was involved in, because I think there's a lot that people don't know. They're going off of certain things right off the police report. Well, I think if you've ever had an accident.
Hey, you're talking to the right guy here.
No, I was going to say, if you've ever even had an accident,
you've ever been accused of anything, sometimes that can pile up and the accusations can become much bigger than what it's
they
intended to be.
Were.
But yeah.
They like to pile on things.
Look, hey, here's what we all know. We're all human beings. We all understand that, and if you have been through this or know someone that has been through this, you understand. Like, sometimes
you know what? I do,
Todd,
and you know him
the
too.
Whole story. Yeah.
But there's somebody that I don't even want to name him as frequently as I talk about him, but it's because I have so much respect for him for what he has done, because he has done a 180. I mean, you're one of those people, but I'm talking about someone who had a situation like this that was closer to a domestic situation. And I'll go ahead and say it. It was Sharon Wickerson. I mean, Sharon had some instance way back in the day, but he has done a 180 with his life. He is one of the greatest. If you have a kid, you want him teaching or coaching your kid. He will lead boys into men. He has turned his life completely around. When you talk to him, you're talking to someone who has the greatest respect for you and everyone else he's talking to. Mm-hmm. You are the most important person that he's talking to when you're talking to him. I've just never seen a transformation. So because of that very thing, I'm like, you can't rule people out. I'm sorry. You can't just discard them and not know everything. So if it were true, I think it would be great for Indiana fans. But
Hey, look, you and
I
I
don't
both know, Jim. There's people that would not like it if he was hired. But we should all agree with this statement. We don't know. The only people that know the real details of what happened and what went on, and how bad was it, or was it not that bad? Like, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm saying the only people that know that are the people that were involved and were there, and the coach. The somehow he got vetted through that process and was hired at a major Division I college basketball program after that. So we all have to assume, I'm guessing, that maybe it was blown up bigger than what it was, than it should have been, because he's got another job already. He's not sitting home on his couch or at ESPN, not coaching. Like, he has been vetted through the hiring process and hired. And I'm using him as an example, but here's the difficulty of all of this. And Indiana kind of creates that difficulty on their own. They try to keep everything so close to the vest and tight-lipped, all the cliche terms you want to use. They try to keep everything in-house and not give out any information. So it's our jobs. It's our right. It's what we, as fans, it's our right to be able to speculate and guess and make rumors up, because they don't give us information. They don't tell us. And I'm not necessarily saying they should. I think they should be a little freer with more information than what they are, but I'm not saying they need to tell us exactly the process and where they're at and all that every morning. They don't need to give us a daily update. But it'd be nice. It'd be nice to understand where they're at and why certain guys. We're never going to know if Chris Beard is not hired. We're never going to really know. The only people that are going to know are Dolson and Witten, and those people on the board are going to know, how far down the road did they really get with him? Where was that? Did they consider him? Did they not consider him? Was his past a big factor in it? Like, they're not going to come out and say, well, this is why we didn't hire Chris Beard. This is why we didn't hire blank. They're not going to tell us that. So even after the fact, we're not going to know why or why not. And so we just have to understand that and accept it and deal with what we can deal with. And I will say, because he was hired at another school, I don't think that background should be an issue. It's obviously been fixed, corrected, and understood. Like, he might be on the other side of it coming out. We don't know what it was like. So at the end of all of that long rant, I'll just say, Indiana's going to keep it close to themselves, but at the same time, there are some coaches out there. I'm going to throw. I don't know Chris Beard, but I've kind of advocated for him on your show for years. I like watching his teams play.
Oh,
he
absolutely.
always pays tribute to Coach Knight all the time. I love that. I love the fact that his basketball life, one of the people that he admires is Coach Knight. That side, Coach Knight is a basketball wizard, so I like that side of it. But coaches can't outwardly go out and say, oh yeah, I want, hey, make sure Indiana knows I'm interested in that job. Their agents can. Their agents do that stuff. But we're never going to know that. Those agents would get fired so fast if they started leaking certain information. So, we're not going to know who's reaching out wanting the job and who Indiana's reaching out to wanting to look at taking the job. But one thing we're all going to agree on as Indiana fans, or if you're a Purdue fan, you hate it, but it's just a fact, is, this is a sought after job. There's probably not 10 coaches across the country that you can name that if they were offered this job, they wouldn't take it. And that's just a fact, especially because the money's going to be there, and the NIL backing is probably the most significant thing a coach needs to look at when he comes in right now into a program is, what do I have to work with? What do I have to deal with? And Indiana has a lot to work with and a lot to do. A lot to give them.
Rudy says the ironic thing is that this is from a school that had Bob Knight as their coach for, it was actually 29 years. But part of it is they learned. They realized after the fact that, yes, they were winning at the highest level, but underneath of that was a storm going on that they kind of ignored and allowed to grow. And so they didn't balance it well. And they don't, I understand not wanting to get in that situation again. They've got a lawsuit going on right now. So it's not like it's just that easy. Then that no matter what, there will be, let's say they hired Chris Beard. Oh, man, I was watching, just happened to be the 30 for 30 on the Duke lacrosse team last night, and there cannot be a more perfect example. There is not a person listening. There is not a person that you know out there, people, that did not think those guys were freaking guilty as hell when that was going on, only for it to turn out that they were innocent, and it was a big lie. You don't know, but
I tell you, you don't know if you weren't there. Like that, hey, we all have to understand you are right on the money. Like, you can use that as one example. We could sit here all day long and pull out example after example. But on the flip side of that, I'm not saying the bad part of what happens in a situation like that is there are victims. There are people who didn't make it up. There are people who bad stuff has happened to. And now it becomes harder for them to have to prove that something really happened or something, whatever it was. Like, yeah, so those scenarios just put, that slightest bit of doubt in your mind as to whether, certain things are. We don't know what happened with. I know your point in all of that was pointing back at Chris Beard's situation that he happened, and I'll just continue to go back and say, none of us know or are ever going to know what really happened. What was it as bad as we thought? We're all adults. We're all human beings. We've all been in circumstances we wish we weren't involved in and handled things differently than we wish we could go back and change it and do it differently. That's part of growing and being a better human. And you know what? We don't know where he's at today. He might be worse today. He might go to church 8 times a week. Like, who knows? Like, it's just a scenario. Like, we're going to speculate because that's our jobs and that's what we do. And it's fun and we get to talk about it. And, what else are we going to talk about on, March 7th at 9 a.m? I mean, we get to talk about Indiana basketball and that's fun. And so, let's keep it that way. And let's speculate in a good way as to who it might be, not look at all the reasons why we shouldn't hire someone. I'll be the first one to tell you, I think the leader in the clubhouse right now would not be my first pick, but I'll support the heck out of it if it happens that way.
Who do you think that is? Ben McCollum?
Mick Cronin.
Do you really?
I really do. I think Mick Cronin, I think he checks.
And I do not doubt that whatsoever. I say that with a little, because I don't have a dog in the fight, but I don't know. He's a winner. He wins. I just don't. I'm not getting the.
I say that
I'm not
is because he checks all the.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the top candidates. The good thing is there are candidates this time. It wasn't like that last time.
Right.
You've got Ben McCollum. You've got Mick Cronin. You've got Brad Brownell, if you want to go down that route. You've got TJ Otzelberger. Scott Drew has not been eliminated yet.
Jim, it's going to be much easier for you to name the people that are not candidates. Because there's probably, like I said a few minutes ago, there's probably only 10 maybe guys. There's probably only 10 names you could say. Like, I'll give you an example. Tom Izzo, Matt Painter. Like, those guys are not – they're at their destination schools. They're at the school. Mark Pope, not leaving Kentucky. He would never want to leave Kentucky. And so there's probably 10 of those guys across the country. Outside of that, everyone is fair game. Every single coach in the country. And the reason I say I think Mick Cronin checks almost all of the boxes from the standpoint of what he's accomplished and what he's done and where he's been and those types of things, what he needs to do when he comes in here. I think he's checked all those boxes. I don't particularly love the style of play that they have. But his job isn't to come in here and, have a style of play that we like. His job is to come in here and win. And if he comes in here and wins, that's just the way that it is. And I think he checks those boxes without having, I can tell by your reaction, he's not your number one pick. I'll tell you, he's not my number one pick. But I don't know him from Adam. If I sat down and had lunch with him, he might be my number one pick. He might be your number one pick. I don't know the guy at all, so it's really difficult for me to give much more than just an analytical view of what he's accomplished. And you're not going to rule him out based on what he's accomplished, because he's put himself in that conversation. And that's why I think he's where it is. But, again, he's not the sexiest hire out there, but he's sure not one you're going to be able to poke a bunch of holes in.
Well, he's not exactly sexy himself, but that's okay. Just win, baby. Just win. Hey, brother, I hope you have a great weekend, safe and enjoyable, and looking forward to those 70-degree days coming at you.
Boy, you can't even imagine. I'm going to have every window in the house open.
Todd Leary from myjumpshot.com. We appreciate you, brother.
See you, brother.
Thank you. That's going to wrap it up for this hour. Hey, stick around. We're right back in 2 minutes with Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, the IU beat writer for the Hoosiers. Back with more on the backside of this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday, and that means a visit from Zach Osterman, the IU insider from the Indy Star. Make sure you're a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. Give Zach a follow as well if you're not already. Zach, how are you, brother?
Hey, how we doing?
Heading into the final weekend of the college basketball regular season, college conference tournaments abound. The women are playing. Some men's tournaments are already begun, and then the boys basketball going on, and then the Big Ten happening next week. It's that time of year where it is a cornucopia of basketball here in the state of Indiana. But everyone kind of focused on this coaching search. Then the rumor that got started, and I'm like, man, I hate dealing with rumors, especially ones that I just don't feel solid about. But they're fun to talk about, I guess, and that's basically what they're intended to be. But of course, I don't need to tell you the latest rumor is regarding Chris Beard. I'm still finding it hard to believe that Indiana had a change of heart, because everything that I was told was that he really wasn't going to be considered a leading candidate.
Yeah, I think what I would say, and I guess the latest I can probably offer in terms of what I've heard is that we're in a stage now where I think it's been widely sort of acknowledged Indiana has engaged Turnkey, which is the same search firm that helped them with the Kurt Cignetti hire. And that Indiana has, I think it's probably fair at that point then to assume Indiana has sort of moved past the stage in the process that is sort of, let's evaluate what profile of coach we want. Like, I think, especially if you go back to the way Scott Dolson identified Kurt Cignetti, I think this is an athletics director that is probably more interested in sort of defining the job and then looking for coaches that fit rather than looking for coaches and trying to define the job around the coach, if you understand what I'm saying. And so I think the first step was going to be basically defining the scope of the job. What has made Indiana successful in the last 30 years? What has made other programs like Indiana successful in the last 30 years, 20 years, maybe even 5 years? I don't know, because you almost can look at it in terms of, generations of what was 25 years ago doesn't necessarily apply the same way what was 10 years ago, what was even 5 years ago, what was even 2 years ago in terms of NIL, portal, now revenue sharing. But the point is, I think Indiana went through that process first. Then it kind of activated, Turnkey's sort of role in all this. And I think where we're at now is probably that Turnkey is just kind of doing a lot of its due diligence. And so you're going to hear whispers of Indiana's been in touch with this coach. I mean, I've heard like any number of names and all the ones you'd expect from, rumors about Brad Brownell or Greg McDermott or Darian DeVries or whoever. And what's probably happening is just the search firm is doing what search firms do, which is just background work, exploratory work, just very, very surface level conversations. Would there be any interest? If there was, what would it take? We're not don't take this as you're the prime candidate or whatever. We're casting a wide net. This is building out the whole portfolio. The search firm is going to take a 5-figure payout from Indiana. Trust me, they're going to earn their money, which means they're going to do a lot of legwork. They're going to talk to a lot of people. And in the meantime, there's going to be a bit of an information vacuum. And because there is justifiably such intense interest in the outcome of this search and the direction of this search and, whatever is kind of, whatever comes of all this, there's going to be an intense desire for someone or something to fill that information vacuum. And so what you're going to get is little bits and pieces of rumors popping up, kind of all over the place. I mentioned some of the names I've heard, and those shouldn't be surprising names. Ben McCollum would be another one. I think everybody is intrigued by TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State. And that doesn't mean that, Indiana's, I've seen maybe like 3 different coaches that Indiana has allegedly already agreed a contract with, depending on, what rumor you believe or what day it is or whatever.
Yes.
The point is, you're at the stage in the search where enough of this stuff is true that it's hard to prove that it's false, that all of it's false or any of it's false. But really what's probably happening for the most part, and Indiana maybe is quietly zeroing in on somebody and having the search firm do a little bit more legwork on somebody as opposed to somebody else. But a lot of what's happening now really, I think, is mostly building out the information necessary. And it's also worth saying, too, the search firm, there might be a perception, for example, that, like I heard near the beginning of the week, that there was a perception that Indiana was more focused on some mid-major candidates, like a Ben McCollum or someone like that. But then someone else kind of made the point to me when I just kind of dug into that like, well, the search firm probably needs to do more work on someone like Ben McCollum because there's less, there's less background there. There's, yes, you can look at his. I and I'm rambling here. Forgive me, but I put together this
please
piece a couple weeks ago of sort of the data points I thought might matter to Indiana in looking for a head coach. And I made the point in that piece that Ben McCollum was the sort of coach I couldn't really analyze because I looked far and wide and couldn't find reliable advanced metrics for Division II. So like the search firm is going to probably need to spend more time on Ben McCollum than it is on Greg McDermott. I'm just using these two men as an example. This is not me saying those are the two candidates, whatever. But then what can happen is because there is this thirst for information and because there isn't a lot else going on, then suddenly the perception sort of explodes that, well, Indiana must be more focused on Ben McCollum than Greg McDermott because it seems like they're asking more questions about one than the other. It's just like listen, I do think we are probably approaching the final steps of this search because ultimately Indiana is going to want to have a target identified that it's able to pursue, presumably as soon as that coach's NCAA tournament run is over. So I don't think we're that far away from Indiana, at least privately, building out some kind of, quote unquote, kind of, I don't know, like, priority list or ranking or whatever. But I also think that a lot of the noise that is kind of bouncing through the ecosystem right now is maybe being misinterpreted simply because there is such a desire for there to be information.
Exactly. I was getting ready to say, just because there is no information, they want it so badly that people grasp onto whatever little morsel that all it takes is a little spark of someone saying something with no backup, no confirmation whatsoever. And, that's fine, whatever. I tried to look at things from a common sense standpoint, like with the Brad Stevens. I'm like, yeah, I don't see that. Even after it was announced he wasn't a candidate, I saw so many people still not believing that. That's a shield. That's just some smoke and mirrors. And I'm like, people, come on, give it up. But and it's the same with Dusty May. As soon as he signed his extension, I couldn't believe how many people I saw that the first thing out of their mouth was, yeah, but what's the buyout? And I'm like, dude, you don't sign an extension that if you're not staying where you are. And then the response would be, well, we don't know if he would have turned Indiana down. And I'm like, he has said, in essence, did just turn Indiana down, knowing that opportunity would have been there most likely. So anyway, they moved on from that. But there is a lot of pressure on Scott Dolson because we've said this the last time as well, but boy, I mean, they kind of almost have to get this one right this time just because it's in light of what he did with football. You took a program that was on life support, that had been on life support for years and years, and turned it into a national contender. Basketball has that tradition already, and it's a lot easier to do with basketball. So it's been a little stunning that they haven't been able to make it happen. But I think that Scott Dolson is very good at what he does. I think he is going to make the right decision. I think having the time that he has this time to make this hire is in his benefit, in Indiana fans' benefit. But if people just need to chill, I keep telling people, yeah, I'd like to know, but you know what? I'm not in that big of a hurry. Let it just happen. You're not going to change anything if you know today versus tomorrow.
Well, and this is also a product of kind of the modern sort of way that news sort of snakes through, the mainstream or the consciousness. Like this whole process would have played out not that dissimilarly 20 years ago. We just wouldn't have necessarily been privy to as much of it because there wouldn't be so much sort of noise, and there wouldn't be, there would be no Trilly Donovan. There was no Trilly Donovan in 2006. You know what I mean? That, message boards were still in their infancy. Social media did not exist in the way that it does now. So a lot of this stuff that we're talking about probably happened during Indiana's search that landed on Kelvin Sampson. If memory serves, Indiana used a search firm then too. If not, then they at least had a committee. So they had like an internal committee that was making a lot of calls and things. But the point is, we just weren't as privy to it as we are now. And obviously this search in particular is longer than most because, we found out kind of in season that the coach would be stepping down at the end of the year rather than waiting until the end of the year, then making that decision public and then going on from there. And, again, compared to the Curt Cignetti thing, we know now that Indiana had been laying the groundwork for weeks to conduct that coaching search very quickly. But, none of that was public. None of that was made public or allowed to become public because Indiana had not fired Tom Allen yet. Well, we know Mike Woodson has decided to step down at the end of the season. We've known that for a month. So we've had this whole month to fill of people wanting to know who's calling who's doing this, who's going there, So it's a longer than normal coaching search. But the one thing I always find myself reminding people, and I hope this doesn't sound, paternalistic. I don't mean for it to, or patronizing. But the thing you do have to remember is everybody involved here's got other jobs. Scott Dolson's got 23 other programs he's got to deal with. He's got budget meetings he's got to attend. He's got donor events that he's got to attend. He's got to deal with, he's got to meet with Curt Cignetti about the spring game, or he's got to, talk to Jeff Mercer about, planning for budgeting for travel at the end of the baseball season, or, he'll be looking already now, obviously, at fiscal projections for next year and building revenue sharing into the budget and all that different kind of stuff. And the point is, I understand and in no way criticize any IU fan who's looking at this and saying, this is the thing I'm thinking about more than anything else related to IU athletics is who the next basketball coach is going to be. It's an incredibly important question. As you said, it is. I at the outset, I said it was probably Indiana's most important hire in at least 50 years for this job. But in the same breath, the people conducting the search are not and cannot be thinking about this job or this process 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are just other things they quite literally have to do for their jobs, never mind their families, never mind, their own personal sanity like any of the rest of us. So again, I think, we're in a situation where there is a thirst for information, and I'm just not sure that information in every case, I'm not sure that information exists. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't bits and pieces of truth in the different things you hear about a Chris Beard or a Brad Brownell or a Greg McDermott or whoever. That doesn't mean that it's all lies or it's all fake or it's all fabricated. It just means that we're probably only getting fragments of the whole picture. We're getting pieces of a very large jigsaw puzzle and not really understand it with no box, with no picture on the box to help us know where exactly those pieces should fit. That's kind of, I think, the stage that we're at here. Now, again, I do think all of this will clarify itself pretty quickly and possibly very soon, possibly within the next 2 to 3 weeks. But, it's kind of one of those, coaching searches are one of those sort of hurry up and wait processes where there's going to be times where a lot is happening in a short space of time, and then everything gets put down for a little while. And then a lot's going to happen in a short space of time, and then everything pauses for a while, and so on. And I think we're kind of in one of those dips before the rise again.
And I know that donors are very important, but with this search, Scott he's done a great job of keeping things under wraps. I just don't see him handing out information to donors, even though they're big time donors, and saying no, but you can't tell anybody, and either thinking that that's going to happen or whatever. I just don't see that information being passed along personally.
No, I don't think so either. I think you'll have a small group of people that you'll keep in the loop, at least to a certain extent, because ultimately you're going to need, them. I mean, to be frank, you're going to need their money. You're going to need, if, for example, you need to action someone's buyout, or maybe a coach says, hey, I'm going to need an extra year, and you have to go to your donors and say, can we get another, $5 million together or something like that? Well, there's a small group of donors, that will have the financial wherewithal and the resources to to be able to kind of help you fill that sort of void very quickly. But those are people that don't talk. Those are people who are well versed in discretion, and not just around athletics, but like people, for example, who deal with insider trading concerns at a very high level, or people who know how to keep a business deal under wraps so that it doesn't blow up. Like people who have, I guess what I'm saying is people who deal with far more serious sort of privacy concerns in their day-to-day lives, in business, in finance, whatever, than who's going to be the next basketball coach. People who know how to be discreet and know how to not leak, not leak information so that a business deal doesn't collapse or nobody runs afoul of some sort of, legal implication or something before a contract is signed. They're not suddenly going to get loose lips when it comes to IU basketball. And the other thing I would say too, and I have to jump off here in a minute, forgive me, but the other thing I would say too is it's not the people you think. Like, everyone always says to me, is it Mark Cuban? and I always say, like, it's not Mark Cuban. Like, it's by and large, it's people you've never heard of. Like, even, maybe if you live, kind of live and breathe in the IU ecosystem a lot, maybe at least some of these names. And yes, there will be a handful of them whose names are on buildings around campus or on the athletics campus or whatever. But there are a lot of people that will be involved in this sort of process. That when I'm talking about the small handful of people Dolson is going to, if not necessarily keep in the loop, then at least kind of they'll be the first ones to know. Those are people by and large, you and I have never heard of, that are wealthier than we can imagine and more anonymous than we'd ever be aware of. So.
Yeah, and looking forward to that coming down. Obviously, tomorrow, Indiana taking on Ohio State, and that has great implications as Indiana has its NCAA tournament fate in its hands, and I think that rests on tomorrow's game, as most people do.
It is about as bubbly as a game gets. I mean, it's this and Oklahoma, Texas. Like, those are the two. I think the winner of both of those games maybe clinches their spot, particularly IU, Ohio State. Texas, Oklahoma might be a little bit more tenuous, but I mean, it especially if it's Indiana that wins, because I know it's not like a metric data point, but Indiana would be able to say, we've swept Ohio State. If you're doing any kind of head-to-head bubble comparison, we've played them twice, once home, once away. We beat them both times. I think if you're Indiana, like I thought Indiana was safely in and probably safely past Dayton if they beat Oregon. The Oregon loss doesn't hurt them very much. It just would have been a big help. I'm not sure I would say Indiana's clearly past Dayton if it beats Ohio State, but I think Indiana's comfortably in the field if that's the case. And I think that Indiana, would be able to go to the Big Ten tournament, whether it was playing Oregon in its first game or Illinois in its first game, looking more at opportunity and shoring up NCAA tournament seeding possibilities and ensuring itself, for example, that it didn't have to go to Dayton, rather than maybe going to Indianapolis and thinking we've got to get some wins here or we might be on the wrong side of the bubble.
My only question was, okay, let's say they beat Ohio State but get to the Big Ten tournament, they'll probably go in as does that put them in as the 9?
No, they'd be the 10 seed. So they'd play the 15. Yeah, they'd start with that's the other thing is they'd start on Wednesday with a game that really wouldn't do them much good.
But they would get a win, and if they lost the next game, it would be a wash.
It would be a quad 2, and it would be against, quite literally the 15th place team in the conference, whether that's like a Minnesota, a USC, a Rutgers. That could also, in theory, be I don't know all the tiebreakers down there, but I guess in theory that could also be Nebraska, which is not a good matchup for Indiana. So you'd wind up in a situation where you get a game that doesn't really do much for you from a resume perspective, but if you lose it's a big problem. Whereas if you win, because basically Indiana's seeding is very simple. They're the 9 if they beat Ohio State, they're the 10 if they don't. because Ohio State and Indiana are 9-10. Nobody else has fewer than 11 wins or fewer than 12 losses. Nobody can pass either of them, and they can't pass anybody. They're locked into those two spots. They're just playing for the 9 versus the 10. If you're the 9, if you're Indiana, that means A, you beat Ohio State, and B, you start with a game against a likely NCAA tournament team. I think that the two possibilities are Oregon or Illinois. I don't think UCLA can get dragged into that based on tiebreakers. And then if you lose, you're the 10, and you not only did you not beat Ohio State, but you're also not you're also opening with a game that really does nothing for you, but is danger rather than opportunity. So I mean, Saturday it's a pretty big deal for Indiana. It is a pretty important game, all things considered.
Zach Osterman, IU Insider for the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. Zach, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Hey, we've got more coming up. Sam King from the Lafayette Journal will be joining us, and we've got more to talk about on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Friday. Ready for the weekend? Yes, I am. I've got a basketball game tomorrow as Indiana is hosting Ohio State in a winner go home, basically. Whoever loses that game is on the wrong side of the bubble, in my estimation. Indiana is in right now, and a win would just solidify that and keep them out of Dayton, I believe. It'll be interesting to see it all play out. Ohio State has better numbers, metrics, but their record is just not good. Not good. Sam King from the Journal Courier for West Lafayette will join us here briefly as we'll talk more Big Ten action. And don't forget the boys basketball tournament going on. Get out. Check out a high school game this weekend if you're not going to one of the college games, but lots of action to go see. Support high school basketball. Get out there and check them out. But the Big Ten action is going on. Joining us now from the Journal and Courier, Sam King. How are you, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. Appreciate you joining us. Always great. First time for Sam to be on with us, but working hard up there, West Lafayette, man. It wasn't the year that the Boilers were kind of quite hoping for, but this has been a unique Big Ten season. Michigan State looked so strong early, but that was kind of built on a paper schedule, and a lot of us expected them to fall off, but then all of a sudden they flexed and said, "Hey, we're better than you think we are." And so Michigan State is they secured the Big Ten championship last night with that win at Iowa. Now the Big Ten tournament coming up starting on Wednesday, but this final weekend going in, a lot's to still be determined as far as seeding and things like that.
Absolutely. And it starts in Champaign tonight, Purdue's final regular season game. And there's kind of this dangling carrot of if Purdue wins, takes care of business, it's going to have a double bye in the Big Ten tournaments. If it doesn't, most likely not. You're going to be playing in that Thursday round. Not that means a whole lot because this tournament, as you mentioned, there's a lot of parity, and I think there's a lot of teams that could probably win even if they have to go through 4 days of doing so. But as a team, you want that extra day of rest, and you want the path where you only have to play 2 games to get to the Big Ten championship, 3 games to win it. So, yeah, this is a huge game at Champaign for Purdue for a lot of reasons. And then Purdue right now is clearly in a position where it can probably escalate to a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, could fall down to a 5 seed. Who knows? But I think Purdue would like to see itself as high on that seed line in the NCAA tournament as possible.
Yeah, it's hard to win any tournament, but the Big Ten tournament, if you're outside of that double bye, simply because you play less games, you have less opportunities to be beat, but you're also fresher, you're rested, and you get more opportunities to scout. So there's just a lot of advantages in that regard, and it's just tough to win that many games in a row. If you start on Wednesday, you're basically screwed. You'd have 5 days of playing back to back to back to back. But there's about 5 different teams that I think can win this thing. All the top 4 double buys, and right now that includes Purdue, but you got in Wisconsin. UCLA, I don't see them, but Illinois, even though they're further down, they are just a dangerous team, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bad matchup for Purdue tonight. I anticipate if Purdue wins this game, it's not going to be the shooting display that we've seen Purdue have the last couple of games. It's going to be kind of a grinded out because Illinois is a great rebounding team, which at times has been a weakness for Purdue. Illinois has several different guys who can light up the box score with points and things of that sort. And Purdue's really been a 2 or 3 man show offensively for most of the season. And then occasionally you'll have a CJ Cox or somebody pop in there with a 12 or 15 point game. But you're absolutely right. And one of the things I said going into the Big Ten season was I didn't think Indiana would be a contender for a Big Ten championship, but I thought Indiana would determine who won the Big Ten championship because it was just a team that was so good and could beat anybody on any given night. Illinois is in that same realm. People forget now that Michigan State went out and lost to UCLA and USC back to back, and people were wondering, is this team legit? And then it runs the table the rest of the way. So there is a lot of parity. Michigan obviously is a very talented team. Wisconsin has proven that it's really good, and what Tanji's done for that program has elevated the Badgers. So yeah, I agree with you. There's probably, I would even say maybe 6 teams that would not surprise me if they went on and won this Big Ten tournament this week.
Yeah, speaking of Michigan State, they have now won 6 straight, and I believe that streak started after losing at home to Indiana, of all things, and that's shocker, which surprised everybody. Indiana now, they're on the Mendoza line with a game against Ohio State tomorrow. The winner is out the loser is out in my mind of the NCAA tournament right now. So that's an important game. It's amazing how many of these Big Ten games, these last Big Ten games, carry so much weight. Had Michigan State lost last night, their final game against Michigan would be to determine the Big Ten championship. You just talked about Purdue fighting for that double bye with Illinois, who is coming off of a gigantic win over Michigan at Michigan, where they throttled the Wolverines by like 20. And then Indiana fighting for their tournament life, as well as Ohio State is, to get in. Some people can say Nebraska is, but unless they made some kind of crazy run in the tournament, I don't see them getting in. I think that the Big Ten, 6, 8, I think they'll get 9 teams in. That's the Indiana and Ohio State. Both of them are not getting in, and they're my 9th team.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, and now that there's 18 teams, the league is, as deep and talented as it's ever been. But then you have, adding Washington, at least this season, did nothing for men's basketball. It just was basically a game that a lot of teams got 1 or 2 wins again for the most part, it seemed like. But it is, a great coup for the league that you're talking about 9, possibly 10, probably not. But it's almost like the TV networks knew what they were doing when they backloaded this Big Ten schedule to get all of these major games late in the season. Michigan State, you can't anticipate that would possibly be for a Big Ten title, but a week ago you're thinking that's what it looks like. Purdue and Illinois for the second year in a row. Purdue's playing at Champaign in March at the end of the Big Ten schedule. They were obviously both in the Elite 8 or beyond last year, and were expected to be Big Ten title contenders this season. I'm going to say that the Big Ten knew what it was doing when it built the schedule to make these games at the end of the season really meaningful.
And talk about winning streaks. Michigan is not on one.
No.
They since Dusty May signed his extension, they've lost 3 out of 4, and boom, there goes their shot at winning the Big Ten title, which would have been an incredible story for Dusty. He was already involved in one with the opening job at the Indiana, and that got shut down once he signed that extension. But it would have seemed like that would have taken pressure off and kind of alleviated things. But I'm not saying it made it worse, but Michigan's fallen.
Yeah, Michigan was a team that I think in a lot of ways mirrored what Purdue did 2 years ago, where Purdue won the Big Ten. Zach Edey was a junior and National Player of the Year, but Purdue was winning a lot of games that were tight at the end that Purdue would somehow manage to pull it out. Hit a 3 at Ohio State to win the game late, hit a buzzer beater at Michigan State to win late, things like that. And I felt like Michigan was kind of flirting with disaster a little bit this season, winning a lot of games in the final minutes. And then, when it got into a game, Illinois just kind of shut that down, made sure that wasn't going to happen. When it got into this later part of the season, water kind of finds its level maybe a little bit. So you're due to lose some games that, sometimes you maybe stole wins earlier in the Big Ten schedule that people didn't expect you to.
So as we head into this final weekend and then the Big Ten tournament starting on Wednesday, the women's tournament going on right now, a lot of excitement around. Luckily for us, both you and I, it's in Indianapolis, where it belongs, where it should always be. But unfortunately, that won't be the case. But big buzz, all kinds of basketball going on right now. And it will be in the state of Indiana for the next, well, not quite month, but next 3-4 weeks. Because in addition to boys basketball tournament, I think there is Indianapolis a regional site or anything at all?
Yes.
Regional site this year. Then you've got the NIT that will be there. The Division II championship is in Indiana. The Division III basketball central. So don't choke on a basketball over the next month. But and then it all comes to an end, and it's like, well, now what? It's like watching the end of the Truman Show, where everybody says, "Well, now what? Now what do we do?" But yeah. Oh, how about, I know one to ask. How about Miles Colvin checking himself into a game?
That's that came unprovoked, and something that I don't think the way that Rutgers game played out the other night, anybody even considered asking. At the time, he checks in with, it's a minute and 5 seconds into the game, and you don't check somebody. Why not just start Miles Colvin at that point if that was the plan? And he came in, and everybody up in our media section is kind of like, why is he checking in 1 minute into the game? It's not like CJ Cox had 2 fouls or anything. He did just foul somebody, but it was the first foul of the game. And CJ Cox walks out, and then Miles Colvin 20 seconds later gets pulled from the game and is kind of just raising his hands like, what did I do? And so after the game, Matt Painter said he checked himself into the game. And once you're in the game, it's not like, you have to say, hey, the coach didn't really want me in here. You're in the game now. You've got to roll with it for at least until the next dead ball, which they did. And Miles Colvin goes down, shoots a 3 from the corner, unfortunately misses. I asked Miles about this yesterday, and he just kind of laughed and said, I thought he called my name, and I ran to the scorer's table, and he didn't stop me. But, Matt Painter lets the assistants delegate a little bit, so it's very possible he thought one of the assistants said, hey, get in there and pull a freshman out of the game, give him a teaching moment, and then put him right back in. That was not the case. It was just a complete misunderstanding, but definitely something that was unique. I don't know that I've ever seen, especially a sophomore who's, mostly been a reserve over his 2 seasons, just kind of deciding he's going to check himself into the game at a certain point.
I liked Matt Painter's response. He was like, he kind of laughed and said, yeah, hey, it's a great deal if you can get away with it.
So Braden Smith tried this a year ago, kind of. He was
really?
one assist shy of a triple-double in a game that Purdue was winning by 40 points, and everybody was chanting to put him back in, and I don't know if Painter even knew that he was just 1 assist shy of a triple-double, but Braden Smith, seeing the crowd kind of chant his name, got up and ran towards the scorer's table, and then he turned around and walked back to the bench, and everybody booed. Kind of pulled a okey doke or fake out type thing there, and it was a funny kind of cool moment. But the people were disappointed that Braden Smith didn't get his triple double, and I reminded Matt Painter a few weeks ago. I said, if Braden Smith leaves Purdue and never has a triple double, like, you'll never live that down.
And he has another season to go, man. It seems like
I thought he would have one for sure by now, and he is not. The only one in Purdue history is Joe Barry Carroll, who did it with points, rebounds, and blocks of all things.
Yeah, I think Indiana has like 2. It's weird how low that number with this much, these many years that have been behind us, over a century, surely. But yeah, it's very uncommon, ironically. Who do you think can actually do damage in the NCAA tournament? Michigan State has obviously looked good. Michigan has looked very infallible, or, faltering here of late, but they have Danny Wolf is a boy. He's a unicorn. That dude is 7 foot, plays like a guard, shoots the ball well, doesn't play inside a lot, but can if needed to be. But the way he can handle the ball, boy, I bet NBA GMs are salivating over this dude.
Oh, I'm sure of it. And there's a reason that Dusty May brought him to Michigan, right? It's all going to be matchup determined. Every team has its strengths, and Michigan State being the league champion is kind of funny because those of us who cover Purdue were talking at practice yesterday, like, does Michigan State even have a top 10, top 15 player in the Big Ten on the roster? Maybe not, and it's going to win the league with just a bunch of guys that average 8 to 12 points a game. And the one comment I made is, if you don't think Michigan has a top 15 player, Tom Izzo is your runaway coach of the year for sure, because what he's done with that team and no superstar power basically is quite impressive. But I think that makes Michigan State really dangerous, just the fact that there's not a guy or 2 guys that you can go into a game and say, well, we got to shut him down, and that's the key to beating them. But the seeds are going to be kind of what determines it. I think Illinois is a team that clearly can go out and score 100 points on anybody. And if you're an 8 seed and you go play a 1 seed and you have that kind of firepower and you knock off a 1 seed, you've got a nice little path there. So it's going to be interesting to see where all these teams land. But and I know the Big Ten's history of not winning a championship since Michigan State did it years ago, but that's going to come to an end at some point. Does it happen this year? I don't know. I don't know that the Big Ten is the strongest league, but this tournament is weird. I never thought I'd see Purdue finally get to a Final Four last year, and then you have to beat an 11 seed to get to the national championship. It's just the way the tournament goes sometimes.
Yeah, it has become better than it always has been, and looking for that to continue. But the SEC looking to dominate this year as they've got 1,000 teams that will make the NCAA tournament, and some four very good ones in Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, and Florida. So they've got 4 different teams that could have been a number 1 seed. 2 of them will be. I don't think they'll get a third, but they'll get a couple of number 2 seeds. So that will be interesting to see from a conference standpoint. And of course, Indiana in the midst of a coaching search, Sam. And that's kind of hard to do when everything is going on. You're fighting for tournament life. The tournament's coming up. Same is going on with any prospect that you would be thinking of wanting to talk to, to consider. You would assume that they are also in the midst of a battle right now with their season. And how much do you want a coach that you're wanting to hire to take attention away from what he's doing now to talk to you?
Right.
It's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah, when you see these situations where there's a lame duck coach there, it's a team that's 10-20 or single-digit wins. It's not a team fighting for the NCAA tournament, and especially a program with the history of Indiana. And I thought the timing of it was weird, but the fan base was just so vocal. I think that Indiana felt pressured to say, "Hey, Woodson is stepping down at the end of the year. We're going to make a change and hopefully cool the fan base on that." And then, strangely enough, kind of the opposite of when Dusty May signed his extension, Indiana started playing at some of its best ball after that, knocked off Purdue at Assembly Hall, has elevated itself into the NCAA tournament bubble discussion. So it's definitely going to be kind of wild if Mike Woodson can take this team to the NCAA tournament, maybe win a game in the tournament, and then the fans, who were just kind of wishing he'd go away now, suddenly are rooting for him to coach as long as possible. Strange world we live in, but
they're
also
probably rooting for him to coach as long
on,
as possible this year.
Right. Yes. Didn't say that. But at the same time, that the portal opens and people are being recruited as the NCAA tournament goes on. And that's that's got to change. That's horrible. Exactly. I remember last year covering the NCAA tournament, and there were people committing to programs that were still in the tournament. And I was just kind of thinking like, wait a minute, you're out there talking to guys to come to your program next year while you're still playing the most meaningful game of your season currently. So
yeah, it makes no sense. How is that not just common sense? You're inviting tampering. You're
right.
inviting a mechanism to disrupt your biggest trophy event, one of the biggest sporting events in America. But you're now going to want to screw with that? That's a very dangerous thing to do in and of itself, but it also slaps. There will be tampering going on. Look at the teams that are not having spring football games. Nebraska started it, Texas now, because guys would hit the portal afterwards if they weren't getting the playing time they thought that they should, or whatever the case. Boom. Mm-hmm. And so now they're not even having spring games. So yeah, the dates of these things have got to be adjusted.
Absolutely. And the sad part of my job is after Purdue loses a national championship game last year, I'm in the locker room asking guys if they're going to transfer just because you have to. I don't want to bring that up in the moment of, this dismantling loss and upsetting setback. And then you're ask about the game, but then you're like, are you going to go in the portal? Are you seeking, a place to play next year? And some of these guys are like, don't want to talk about it, but some of these guys are like, that's the reality of it. Somebody's going to reach out to me with a dollar figure, and I've got to look out for myself. So there's got to be a way where you can not open the portal until that national championship game has been played, and then you can have your wild, wild west and let everybody go switch rosters and end up somewhere else.
Yeah, we had the same thing during the football season when Penn State's backup quarterback said, I'm sorry, but I don't have really a choice. And he didn't. He wasn't lying. So it's not on the players. It's on these idiots that set this up. So straighten it up, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, you've got Purdue and Illinois to contend with. Is that game tonight?
It's 8:00 tonight. Yes.
8:00. What does? Let me guess. Is it on Peacock?
It's on Fox. Fox has had this Friday night 8:00 time slot, and because of Purdue's success last year, somehow Purdue's been slotted into that Friday night game 8 times this year. So I've covered a lot of Friday night basketball, which is unfortunate because I like to get out and watch high school games when I can, and that's taken that away at least on those Friday night games. So.
Well, at least you get to go to a sectional championship this year.
Yeah, I will be at one tomorrow for sure.
Well, good luck, brother. Appreciate you being with us on, and hopefully we can have you on again. Is it the West Lafayette Journal-Courier or the Lafayette Journal-Courier?
It is the Lafayette Journal and Courier. I work from home, which is in West Lafayette. So, but the home base is in Lafayette.
So the bureau is in West Lafayette.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Sam King, appreciate you, my friend.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And we've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with more right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hey, welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday. Glad to have you with us. Hope you have enjoyed the program today. I certainly have. Indiana taking on Ohio State tomorrow afternoon in a do-or-die game. Illinois and Purdue tangling tonight, as that's just a seed differential, as Purdue sitting in that final spot for a double bye at the moment, tied with Maryland for 3rd and 4th at 13-6 in conference play. Both of those teams have won 2 in a row. Pretty evenly matched. Maryland's got a little bit better record. They're 23-7 overall. Actually, Maryland has the second best overall record in the Big Ten, along with Wisconsin. So Michigan State at 25-5, and then you have Maryland and Wisconsin at 23-7. What's Illinois? Illinois is 19-11. It's kind of amazing. Indiana's 18-12. They're one game off of Illinois' record. Now, part of that, I think Illinois had a little dip there with some sickness to Avicic during the season. Let's see, what is Purdue? Purdue is 21-9. So, yeah, they ended up getting three games better than Indiana this season. But you think back to 3 games, and I know there is always coulda, woulda, shoulda. And that stuff drives me nuts. But these are legit. UCLA, Maryland, and Purdue. Those were 3 very, very winnable games. And if you flip those 3 games, you're looking at an Indiana team that is 21-9. That is 12-7 in the Big Ten. So they were this close to having a good season, but not an elite season, which is where they should have been with the talent they have. So even though they should have been better, they didn't get to where their bottom should have been, much less their ceiling. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be an exciting weekend. Plenty going on. The women's Big Ten tournament, like I said, the Indiana High School boys basketball sectional championships tonight, semifinals, and then tomorrow the championships at every place else, and then regionals next week, conference tournaments next week. It's going to be busy. It is going to be bizatch, and we're here for it. Man, I love this time of year. Everybody, it's like the least productive time for the American workforce in the entire year. And I love it. It is the biggest time out in Las Vegas. I was out there once for the second weekend. It's crazy. Crazy. I'm sure Fritz Lick gets like that and all these other places. And this is going to be a year because of it being so open. I just think it's going to be wild, man. Wild. Russell, yep. We are also on 1380 The Fan in Fort Wayne. That's right. Appreciate all of our Fort Wayne peeps. He says Fort Wayne is Purdue country now, to his surprise. I think that's a mix. You've got Fort Wayne's a mixture of everything. You've got a solid IU contingent, a solid Purdue contingent, but there's also fans of Michigan State, Notre Dame. It's up there north. It's up there too far north for me. But let's see. What did I just see? Van, I appreciate that. He says he enjoys this show too. Jim does good work. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you guys. Without you, we don't have a reason to be here. I say that every day. It's, I say that when we sign off, but it's not, it's true. It's how I just started saying that because it was very, very true. Russell asking, per the usual, will I be adding an extra hour to the show today? Thank you for your diligence and consideration. Russell, thank you for the question and your continued support. But no, we can't do that. We have got lots of things to get to, man. It's a busy, busy time. But we're always here for you. We'll be at Simon Scott Assembly Hall tomorrow to cover the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes to see what Indiana does. And then, buddy, we're back on Monday to start talking about it. We'll be heading into Big Ten tournament play. I will be coming to you from Indianapolis next week on certain days, probably starting Wednesday. So we'll be bringing the action to you live and in color. And I'm here for it, man. He's John asking, where's Hank? Passed out. Nope, no potty breaks. He is sleeping. Clinton Prairie plays Rossville in the 1A tonight. Go get them. Illinois, non-conference schedule included Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, and Duke. possible 3 number 1 seeds. That's a resume right there. That is a resume. Yes, we wish all of you guys a great weekend. Roswell, shenanigans. Hope everyone has a great time, enjoys it, safe. Until Monday, I'm Jim Cole. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.